3, 2, 1.
Never has there been a better time to be alive in human history. If you're not feeling it, you must discover why. Join Matthew Bolton in developing and applying a framework of objective optimism toward a flourishing life of meaning, health, and happiness. Here's your host, Matthew Bolton.
Hi everybody, welcome to Mr. Brightside. I'm Matthew Bolton. Well, dear listeners and friends, I'm here on a relatively short recording to tell you that I'm taking a break of sorts from Mr. Brightside. Now please stick with me for a few minutes here until the end as I briefly explain in what way I'm taking a break and why. And so you might also relate this choice to thinking about your own agenda and prioritizing the moving parts within it. And before any of that, I want to assure you that this is not permanent. Please stay subscribed, stay tuned, and I will be picking up and releasing episodes again at some point. And actually, while I will be stepping away from the commitment to putting a show together and releasing it each bi-week, kind of like that monologue style, in the meantime, I will be pursuing some select interviews with guests I really want to talk to, and I'll release those as they come. Of course, these won't be recorded and released on any regular schedule, so I suppose the best thing for you to do is to ring the notification bell or whatever it is you got to do to be notified of new releases on whatever medium you consume this show on. I've got several people in mind that I'd really love to talk to, and whichever interviews I successfully arrange and release, you won't want to miss them. I can say that I just confirmed my first guest on that list today, for instance, so that show will be coming soon for you. And just beyond that, I repeat, the regular show will be back in some form or another after I take some time to think on it. But that's just it. Basically, for me, I've recently felt a sense of overwhelm, and I've discovered that a lot of that has to do with what can be termed overconnection. You might recall episode 42, Quiet the Noise, Turn Up Your Own Agenda, in which I discuss how dropping Facebook, news, and connection in general had led to a quieting of my own life and a more serene and present daily existence. You can go and listen to that one for more details. Well, in many ways, releasing a Mr. Brightside podcast episode, even if only every bi-week, consumes a lot of my time and mental energy. There's a lot that goes into it, more than what it might seem. I think of what I want to say, I prepare notes, and then I record the thing before editing and doing all the little tasks it takes to get it up and out there. And it's not just the time that it all takes, but more, it's the constant mindfulness or awareness of it, which is re-upped every week or 2 weeks, taking up mental space in my consciousness constantly. And with that, there is my other work that gets left with less of me to see to it. I have my university classes, for instance, and I have plans for several new lesson plans that I want to create, units which involve lots of components which take lots of time and mental energy to complete. And of course, when we're working on one thing, we are letting another thing go without progress, and this causes some stress. Now, of course, I've talked on another episode about managing multiple assignments and events, etc., in that if we do have multiple tasks that we must do, part of how to deal with that is to plan a schedule as to when you're going to do what, really block it off, because when everything has a place, a lot of that stress goes away, as there is the security and the certainty that the task will get done. And I have been doing this. But before we simply time block everything on our plate, we might also ask whether we actually have to do all that is on our plate, whether there isn't something we can let go, whether there isn't something we can simplify. And for me currently, the answer is a clear yes. There is a lot of noise in today's world of hyperconnection, but connection goes two ways. And in that previous episode that I referred to, that episode 42, it had warned against overconnection in the way of consuming too many of the voices out there and not paying enough attention to one's own agenda. Well, there's also the detriment of sharing too much. And while I'm guilty of the former, which is why I had made that episode in the first place, one big thing causing a lot of the overwhelm for me these days is the urge, or sometimes feeling the responsibility to share. You know, I see something, I want to comment on it, I want to warn people or help them see through it, to see an alternative, or I'm just pumped up about some realization that's empowering to me, and then I want to share it with everybody. But I need more quiet. I need to shut up. And I know people who know me personally are laughing right now at that. Yeah, guys, I know it. I got to shut up. Now, sharing one well-thought-out idea once every 2 weeks doesn't sound like a lot to many of you, and it isn't necessarily. But from my perspective, it's that constant thinking on how I might share my perspective on everything I hear and see. That's overwhelming, and I need more quiet. I've been reflecting a lot that things used to be so simple in pre-social media days. We were all a lot more present, as it was simply impossible to reach someone, anyone, while you were out doing something. If you were out, that was it. And even then with cell phones, it would take a specific call to a specific person if you really wanted to share something. but you couldn't just go and shout out to the world or wade into the noise of the world and see what was going on with everybody and anybody. And there was a peace in that, a serenity. Serenity now! I can't resist saying that for Seinfeld fans. And that presence and lack of constant connection was good for mental health. And I'm suffering from a lack of presence, of being present in my own life. And look now, guys, I don't want to make out that I'm all depressed or struggling mightily or anything, but I don't accept less than better. That's what this show is about. It's what I'm about. So I'm still really good at appreciating how good I've got it, how full my life is, how many opportunities are available to me, and I tell my wife constantly how pleased I am with everything and the consistent progress we've made and will continue to make. Yet there's something nagging at me that knows it could be better, more enjoyable, and that's why I have to step back, be quiet, and listen for a bit. And that's the idea here, that if I remove this one thing, that space that is left won't stay empty, but will be filled with something more optimal. Nature allows no vacuum. You know, I have this idea when I think about many people that I know, and in many aspects of my own life, if not the whole thing sometimes, that it might actually be a good thing to have it all burned down or obliterated. I know it sounds terrible, but I mean, like, if I just lost my job, or I quit, or I moved to another country without thinking, started from scratch essentially, that I wouldn't actually be worried. And in fact, I think that my wife and I would emerge better than we were before. So, I mean, I'm not going to go burn the whole thing down. I don't mean that. But I can certainly do with a partial version of that, drop in one thing and seeing what emerges from it. And with Mr. Brightside, in its current incarnation and momentum, I know that it could do with a reboot. So with this, I'm just going to step away from it and allow myself some more consumption of good ideas and things around me, and a focus on my own life, quietly, away from the responsibility to then share it all. I have notes for myriad worthy ideas I'd like to share, and more occur to me all the time. But then we can only do so many things. If I had only Mr. Brightside, for instance, this would be a different story. But I have university classes and the private lessons here in my home, which is enough work for anyone. And I want to focus on my university students and my younger students in our private lessons. And then more reading, more learning, and then more of just enjoying the rest of what is happening without the pressure of preparing something every 2 weeks. In short, I'm just saying that I want to simplify my life, quiet it down, and be more present. I want to shut up and be somewhat anonymous in that world of connectivity, and I will re-engage when I have something of such exceptional value that it's too overwhelming inside of me not to share it. I'm going to focus on the already heavy teaching work I have in front of me, on my own physical health. You know, COVID restrictions have taken a toll on all of us, mentally and physically, and on just soaking in all the exciting things that are happening in my life. There are many things my wife and I are looking forward to upcoming, and I'm just going to quietly take them all in and make the most of them. This is what I encourage us all to do on the show, and I know that this is what I need to do. As to the future of Mr. Brightside, the idea is that I shut it down so that amidst the quiet of that, I can see what I want it to be and where I want to go with any of this vehicle. And by the way, you can help me with that. You know, I'd always had a vision of this show being more interactive, but it's been a failure of mine to really set up tools to facilitate easy interaction. I always say to ask questions and make comments, etc. each episode, but it's not yielded many results. And I haven't done any deep investigation as to how I could improve the distribution and interaction of this show. But in spite of that, I've seen some consistent numbers as to YouTube viewers and audio downloads, and I've heard from various people over time. Sometimes it's delightfully surprising to learn who a fan of the show is. And of course, it's been very rewarding to know that such thoughtful people are a part of my audience. But it would be very fun for me if others would let yourselves be known to me as well. And in any case, guys, it would be very valuable to me and to the future of this show, which means for you, if you would let me know what kinds of things you have enjoyed the most in the past 64 episodes. And then what kinds of things would you like to see more of? Do you have any ideas as to a better format for the show? What other suggestions do you have to make this better? I would appreciate any kind of word that can seep into my thoughts during my hiatus. If you're viewing on YouTube, please get right in there on the comment section right now and reach out to me. If you're on audio media, you can send me a message at the Mr. Brightside Facebook page. That's facebook.com/MatthewBolton.ca. Or you can just go search Mr. Brightside, 3 separate words, I guess, there on Facebook. I also invite you to email me at matthew.asknow@gmail.com. That's matthew.asknow@gmail.com. I know that one thing I haven't done is to think hard on how to spread this show. I just share a post on Facebook and LinkedIn, and then that's it. And I know some SEO specialists and even just most basic young people are probably vomiting to hear that. They're like, you idiot analog old man. But I've really just not made a push in that way. It's been enough for me to just focus on making the thing and allowing whoever might hear it to hear it. I figured it would get shared if it was worth it to people. And that's one of the things that might emerge from my break. I might take more time to learn about that as I learn about many things. Of course, I still have a catalog of 64 other episodes, and the idea of them is that they may be listened to at any time. It is still open to any new listener to get something out of most of this series, and I expect at some point many new people will be exposed to it, and who knows how widely it might spread then. And this is again something that you can help with. You can share the show with new people. And in any case, as I said, make sure you're subscribed and that you set up your notifications so that you won't miss any of the interviews that I'm pursuing, and then so you won't miss when Mr. Brightside 2.0 is ready to reemerge. And also for now, I just mentioned the 64 previous episodes that already exist, and if you're really distraught at my announcement and the idea that you won't hear from me, at least monologue style every 2 weeks, you may listen back to some of those past episodes yourself. Obviously, some are more or less valuable than others, but I can't tell what content is more impactful to whom. I know that I personally will be listening to some of the more relevant ones to me. That's why I recorded them in the first place, right? I need those reminders too, those resets, so that I can refocus my mind and energy toward living my best life every day. So this is basically it, guys. I very much appreciate those who have been following, and I want to thank you with sincerity right here. Let me remind you once more before we sign off today that good interviews are coming, and I'm so excited to connect with these guests and to share their valuable insight with you. If you want to suggest anybody, by the way, I'll be very happy to take a lead. And now that I have talked about all my plans, I ask you, what can you cut from your life to simplify it? Imagine you simply don't do something that currently takes a lot of your mental and physical energy. Why are you doing it? And if that part of your life is quiet, what might fill that void and emerge from it? We can't tell. But we've got to clear away some weeds and sometimes even some healthy plants to make room for new growth. And you know, the new ones just might be a stronger version of the old ones, or you might have something altogether new, and this is very exciting. So I'll be seeing you soon with an excellent interview. Well, an excellent guest, I can at least guarantee. And in the meantime, apart from more of such interviews, I'm going to keep busy optimizing and enjoying my own life, and I wish all the best to you and yours.
Mr. Brightside, your time out to refresh, refuel, and refocus your mind and energy toward building an optimistic framework for flourishing. Life is good. It's up to you to choose the bright side.